Stay connected as we discuss shared passions and firsthand experiences intended to enlighten, entertain, and encourage you to try new things. This is not a how-to, this is a why you should. Welcome to the You Should podcast.
This week's guest is a husband, father of 3 boys, and proud stepfather to 2 more. A man whose passions are as eclectic as they are inspiring. With a heart devoted to developing the leaders of tomorrow, he's dedicated countless hours mentoring and shaping the youth around him, igniting a spark of potential to those eager to make a difference. His love for music is just as profound. He's a self-taught musician playing piano, guitar, and upright bass. His interests span a lifetime of dedication and creativity. He's a lover of spicy food, dirty coffee, and chips and salsa. He's a Green Bay Packers fan and knows the value of perseverance and grit. A craftsman at heart, spending his time restoring classic cars and antique furniture to their former glory, bringing history back to life with meticulous care. If you're ever wondering about a TV binge that rivals the best of us, know this. He's watched all 20 seasons of Gunsmoke. That's 633 episodes in order twice. He's a man whose life story is as rich and compelling as the classics that he cherishes. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Renaissance man, Mr. Mark Boyce.
Yeah, Renaissance man.
Wow.
But I love it.
I feel like we just have to change topics right now because that Gunsmoke thing, 630 episodes twice. What do you love about the show?
I love black and white TV westerns. Always have. You know, I grew up with black and white TV, and so Gilligan's Island was in black and white. We didn't get our color TV till the late 70s, so it was black and white. And now I have a 75-inch high-definition TV that I watch black and white westerns with, which actually look pretty cool. You know, you can actually see everything. But, yeah, I just love it. Right now I'm in the middle of Have Gun Will Travel. I'm in season 3. I've seen most of them. I just never done it in order, but I have fun doing it.
Absolutely.
One of my favorites is Wanted Dead or Alive with Steve McQueen. Yeah. So
nice. Well, we're super stoked that you came in tonight to talk about Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. And to start off, I think my first question is, how did you get involved in the programs?
So through family and friends in a neighborhood, just like any other neighborhood. We have a bunch of kids in church, and they invited my older son to join Scouts. And in the 3rd grade, we jumped in.
And so when you jump in there, or was there like a feeling out period? As you said, you grew up with Indian guides like I did. So was this a completely different experience as you started on that journey?
Yeah, in Cub Scouts, it's not so completely different because you still camp with your dad and stuff. But I didn't jump in fully right away. We just went to the meetings. And our neighbor, Jeff Stice, was the den leader, and his wife was the den mom, as they call them. And we just progressed into that.
So as you get going, and your son, you know, and then you have multiple sons, right? And we're all 3 of them in at one time, the different...
Yeah, and that was one of my problems. I have twins that are 4.5 years behind my older boy. So if he's in the 3rd grade, they're still in diapers. And so it was a little hard for me to separate to try and do both.
Right.
So.
And what is the biggest difference between the Cub Scouts and the Boy Scouts? Because I think a lot of people listening, even myself, I have twin girls, they're 15, so I never experienced that. And as growing up, I wasn't part of the Boy Scouts. What is the biggest difference? If a lot of parents are listening, dads, their kids are getting ready to, you know, maybe start to be that age to go into Cub Scouts, and maybe they're thinking it's just like Boy Scouts. Like, what is the biggest differentiation there?
So the biggest differential is in Cub Scouts, it's dad-oriented. You could be a drop-off parent if you want, but that den leader's probably he's got the same age child. And so they're probably all friends. So your kid is going to jump in right away. He's going to love it because A, he gets a uniform right away, which is cool. B, he gets to hang out with his buddies, do all kinds of things. If your den's active, they get to do all kinds of things. And then in scouting, it's 11 years old when you start to do stuff to become a man. You know, separate yourself from the parents, and you're doing scouting stuff with your friends, but it's scout led. And that's the difference.
So as a parent, is it more commitment when you're in Cub Scouts versus Boy Scouts, or how does that work as far as when the kids are in Boy Scouts and they start doing things on their own? As a parent, can you still be involved?
Yeah, I think as a parent, you can be involved in both. And for me as a parent, I wanted to be involved in my kids' life on everything they did. For me, I just jumped in because that's the type of person I am, and that's the type of dad I wanted to be. I was the den leader in Cub Scouts for my twins. But yeah, it depends what you want to do with your kids. If you want to be fully involved and be the soccer coach or be a den leader, be fully involved. If you just want to be a parent that supports that den leader or that soccer coach, that's what you should do.
And when you're in Cub Scouts as a den leader, what typically, how many hours is that, or what's the investment that, or the commitment of time that you had to make in that position?
Well, scouting's pretty cool. They give you a book to go through, and you have to meet certain requirements. But the time commitment for a den leader or for a dad or even a mom isn't overwhelming. You meet once a week as a small den, and we typically met once a month on a Friday night as a whole pack. And you do that with your sponsor at the church or the school that you're at. And you have like a bigger event like Pinewood Derby would come up.
Right.
And we owned a Pinewood track, so we had our own thing. Or you would rent one, or however it worked out, you would do that pack meeting.
So did you ever win the Pinewood Derby? Because they're all through Indian Guides. My dad is a like master craftsman, woodworker. I mean, he really is. I always had the slowest car, right? And we would be in the garage every year. My dad would be like, oh, we're going to do a slant nose and we're going to put the weights on. And then sure enough, right, it drops. And it was just like these other guys are like blowing us out of the water.
And that's why I think they always should have had, and I pushed for it, actually they did do it one time. They had beers and Pinewood Derby at one of the events.
Yeah.
Dads only?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a dad class. And I think that's where you should get that. But the scout is supposed to create his own car, but come on,
Right.
when is that going to happen?
Exactly.
Hard to win a competition when Jeff Stice and Larry Tanis are in your pack.
And what are they doing? They're like basically making little like wood Ferraris that just like.
Larry would,
Shout out to Larry Tanis.
Yeah. LT would actually get his car on a rope on a treadmill
To tune it.
to balance it in. Yeah.
Because I know like graphite shards are really big, right? Like there's all these hidden things that we didn't know. So then my daughters, right? So we did Indian Princesses and Pinewood Derby time. And I'm like, you know what? The girls are all pumped up. And I knew what the outcome was going to be because it was the exact same car that we made 40 years prior. So girls were pumped. They get up there. And yeah, it just... Some of these guys, though, again, they're probably doing that balancing things. So what's the secret sauce? How do you make a fast car?
Yeah, and a lot of times you can race on 3 wheels, so you lift one of them off so you don't have as much friction.
Dang, yeah.
So if that's your class,
So any dads that are out there that are starting to get their kids in there and you hear Pinewood Derby is coming up, do yourself a favor. About a month before, check out YouTube. There's only about, 500 videos on how to...
make that car go fast. And of course, you're going to teach your scout how to do it. Yeah, and you know what the best part is and I have all our Pinewood Derby cars. I have them in the garage lined up, and just for memory for me only.
Right.
It's my thing only. It's the kids, they look at them and they're like, I remember that, blah, blah, blah. And we have different classes. We've had ones where I let them create a car that rolled down the track, and he was happier than ever because he created it.
Yep.
And then we've had some where it's like, all right, Dad, I want to win. And, I help him do a few things.
Right.
You can still have a fast car with that and win. You just, there's ways to do, like you say, you can do NASCAR and you can do dragsters and all the other stuff. So it's fun. But I think the funnest was when the kids created their own and it was theirs. And, it's funny looking and they got to paint for the first time, that type of stuff. Those are memories. Those are core memories that you don't think you ever forget.
No, those definitely are. So in Cub Scouts, what was your favorite event throughout the year? Was there one that just sticks out that you just enjoyed, the kids were into?
Pinewood Derby was great. I was always in charge of the harvest fair every year, so I had to do 5 or 6 games, and we did everything from bobbing for apples, or I'd create a thing where they throw rings on bottles, and we did one. I invented a pumpkin toss thing that got pretty violent. It was fun to watch, mini pumpkins everywhere, and the older kids are like, I'm gonna rip this
kids
thing.
and pumpkins. What could be messy about that?
Yeah. So that was always fun, and I felt like it was always a hit. Just having a good time in the middle of October. And there was a good pack meeting, and just being there with your kids.
Right.
It's all about being with your kid the whole time until they're old enough to go on their own, and they do their thing.
Did you guys ever do the rain gutter regatta?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, that's
What is that?
Pinewood Derby style. Again, you build your own little ship. It comes in a kit, and you can do different things, and then it's all air driven by the child inside of channels of water that you put on sawhorses, that type of thing.
Cool. Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
It's a drag race with sailboats, and the wind is your child or scout blowing into
It's just whoever blows the hardest.
Well, it's also a balance thing too, because you can get one where you blow it and you dip. So it's a matter of getting that balance right. But yeah,
There's technique involved.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
It's fun.
So you have your events, and then in the Cub Scouts, do you also have? Are there also like little accomplishments that the kids are trying to achieve? And
Yeah. So one thing about scouting, which I really love, is, and especially nowadays, before you can even start in scouting, they actually teach you about the cyber chip, they call it, and they teach you different things about the internet and how great the internet could be and how dangerous it can be. And they do that year after year. And that's sort of just a reminder, like, hey, this is what we're doing always. But in that book that we just mentioned a little bit earlier, before we started talking about how to build the best Pinewood Derby car, you go through requirements as a den leader. And there's certain things that I would do in my den meetings every week. And I'd set up things, and then you learn how to do things like plant, grow, mulch. Sometimes we just go down. In fact, our very first meeting when they were in kindergarten, I have a picture of them at the orange circle in the fountain, and we ended up at the fire station, and we just learned about all the history down there and the cannon and what it means and different things. We went to the Sunkist building, and it was part of one of the requirements that we had to do. And as a den leader, you just kind of plan. It only takes a couple hours to plan something. They're kids. They love it.
And did you have a couple other dads that you're talking to that were really involved, or is it?
I have another Larry that came in halfway through. His child was in it, and he actually stepped up and became one of the best partners that you could have and helped me finish off the den and the requirements. Mm-hmm. As we got closer and closer, you have to finish those requirements so you can get your achievements, and then your rank is what you're trying to rank up. So
you're really trying to make sure every kid achieves that as they progress through
absolutely
the program.
Yeah.
But different in Cub Scouts, do Cub Scouts have to earn all the things that they get, or is it more of a, hey, you participated and you fulfilled your requirements through participation?
A little of both. In Cub Scouts, their merit badge things are called belt loops back then, and they get a little belt loop for their little belt, and you could cover your entire belt if you wanted, and with all the different things that you do. So obviously, the requirements are pretty simple because you're dealing with kindergartners through 5th grade.
Yeah, and you probably want them to have some success, right? Start
Absolutely.
to enjoy reaching those achievements and continuing on, with that mindset.
Swimming is one of the bigger things in scouting. Everything's related around water and hiking and biking and things like that. So there's a lot of swimming requirements done in Cub Scouts that actually goes into scouting as well.
So I think from a dad perspective, it's always nerve-wracking when you show up somewhere and you don't know anybody. Right. We've all been in those positions, and we just make the best of it. And we go, oh my God, I'm just here because of my kid, and I don't know one person. And that can always be intimidating, right? What advice could you give to them to just making that step?
Jump in, because you'll find a friend there. First of all, you'll find someone that you melt with, just like anywhere else. And be part of it. If you want, be part of it. After a few meetings, see what you can do, see how you can help. Get into the book and see if you can, especially in Cub Scouts, see if you can do one of the meetings or have an idea. And if he's a decent den leader, he'll gladly let you take over.
He would love that,
yeah.
Right? I mean,
no leader anywhere has ever been upset when someone says, hey, can I help?
Yeah, especially when you're volunteering.
No, I really wanted to do that meeting on, May 12th.
Yeah. I think as a den leader at that age, when you're with your kids, you don't really have an ego about it. You just do it. And the other parents are just grateful that you're taking the time with their kids and doing what you need to do.
So if there's somebody out there now that's maybe newly been told that they're going to be the den leader, and they're apprehensive and they don't know what they're doing, and they're like super nervous, so they're going to screw this up. The bar is actually fairly low. Like, you follow the curriculum. The kids are more or less going to follow along with the flow. Some will retain some information, some will retain less, but it's still all a success.
Yes. So it took me a long time to learn this, even through Cub Scouts and stuff. The success is those one time that at that den meeting that one scout gets it, and that becomes his core memory. For instance, I have a young man that had a permanent spot in my van to go to campouts. He was always jump in my van when he became a scout. He was a Cub Scout in our Cub Scout, and we had to go in public and sell some popcorn, right, for a little fundraiser, and just teared up. Couldn't do it. Didn't want to do it. And we threw him in. His parents threw him in with my twins, and we went to the store, and he became the top seller. And I said, just hang out and do it. You're cute enough. That's for sure. You're in the kindergarten in an outfit. There's at least 5 little old ladies that are going to come in and give you
exactly just for that.
Yeah, just for being cute. So I said he learned that day that changed the trajectory of his whole outcome in his life. Was that one moment that he went and conquered that fear as a kindergarten, but didn't even understand it yet. Just that one moment just changed who he was.
Yeah, those are great moments. And I think we can all look back through our filing cabinet and we can pick out moments in all of our lives when that happened. But as an adult, to see that in a little kid and say that's going to be one of those moments.
Yeah,
right. That's got to be cool.
Yeah, that's a special feeling for sure.
So typically you're in Cub Scouts for, is it 4 years?
K through 5.
Okay, so K
If you start in kindergarten, let's say you're a fourth grader and you're interested in Scouts, you can join Cub Scouts.
Right.
You get in where you fit in at whatever that appropriate level is. Because in Cub Scouts, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, you gain rank by your age.
Yes.
You age into the next rank. You're not necessarily.
Every grade level is the new rank. So even if
Gotcha.
you didn't finish the curriculum as a bear,
Right.
you're going to become a Webelow or an Arrow of Light, whatever
Right.
it is.
What is your advice if I have a son who's in 5th grade right now and he loves Cub Scouts? Other things are coming into his life, though he's more active. He has sports and everything. What is the best way to bridge that, to make that bridge into Boy Scouts?
So we should make an important announcement that Boy Scouts is no longer Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts is now called BSA Scouting. So referred to as Scouting. We say Boy Scouts to make a distinction from Girl Scouts. Most people don't realize those two do not meet. They are two completely separate organizations. They are not affiliated in any way, shape, or form. The Girl Scouts is not the girls' division of the Boy Scouts. It doesn't work that way. Two separate things. So girls are allowed to be in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts now, but they are not integrated, meaning you typically don't have girls and boys in the same den, the same core group. They can be a part of a larger group, but you'll have a girl den and a boy den. They camp separate. They're segregated.
Including when you get up into that 10 and a half year age or the 5th grade, you separate those troops. So you have a girl troop and a boy troop. Because if I'm a father of a 13-year-old girl, there's not a 13-year-old boy she's going camping with.
Right.
So
Exactly.
let me just put that out there.
So
Yeah.
there was a lot of people that got upset when girls were allowed to come into what's now Scouting. Girls were allowed to come into Boy Scouts because everybody thought they were going to be integrated troops. They are not. They are completely separate.
Yeah.
And it's important to know that the Girl Scouting program is all about entrepreneurship, right? So Girl Scout cookies. It's all about teaching young girls how to run a business. Really, that's what that program's around. And there's some camping and outdoor skills and things, but a lot of it is around leadership and business decisions. Boy Scouts is about camping and outdoors and
Becoming an outdoorsman.
so you have some girls who maybe are, well, I don't want to be an entrepreneur and I want to go camping more and my Girl Scout troop doesn't camp a lot. So they opt into the scouting program because that more suits their needs.
Yes.
And when they are in the program, they have their own separate campsite, or is everyone just in the same?
It's segregated. So it is heavily monitored and segregated and separate. So they can come together for group functions, but the camping is separate.
Just like if parents go with the Scouts, and we'll call them Scouts, to differentiation between girls and boys, right? If we go with the Scout, in Cub Scouts, you camp with your kids. They'll sleep in your tent, preferably,
Right.
because they're
Yeah. They're
in the
kids.
3rd grade. Yeah. And, that raccoon might get them.
Yep.
But in Scouting, you camp, the Scouts camp with themselves. If there's adults on this trip, which there should be,
Mm-hmm.
they have a separate camp area.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a line that's drawn between
Right.
those two. And yeah. And in Scouting, as far as that goes, there's also, youth protection that they go through and all that, which is if you've done the training with Scouting, they've changed a lot. And I think it's one of the better ones out there for youth protection training that I've seen. And we do it year after year.
So you get into 4th and 5th grade, and now you're starting to age out of Cub Scouts, and Scouting is on the horizon. And I'm sure a lot of kids just never make that step and get into Scouting. What is some advice to if a kid, he really enjoys Cub Scouts, he likes being there, he enjoys doing all the things, how do you kind of make that push to continue on into Scouting?
So right now they have most AOL dens, which is called Arrow of Light. That's the last den you're in or the last position you're in as a 5th grader. You would go visit different troops in your area. And I would suggest that as the parent or the dad, I would suggest you go visit 3 or 4 of them and find your fit. And you never know what one troop does as the other troop doesn't, and your boy might just be like, this is it, Dad, I want to do this. Join it. It's not going to hurt you. You're just going to continue on for the week. It actually becomes easier for the parent as far as a den leader goes. I mean, you can become a assistant scoutmaster or even a scoutmaster, or like me, I was the quartermaster for several years.
And what is that? What is the quartermaster?
So a quartermaster is in charge of all the equipment. Scoutmaster would be in charge of running the program,
Mm-hmm.
and the assistant scoutmasters would be in charge of helping the scoutmaster run the program.
So if you guys are going camping, you're in charge of, hey, this is what we need as far as all of our gear
Yeah.
and equipment.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
back to the question was, just join a troop and find that, or go visit some troops and then join it and see where it's you.
So when it comes time to picking a troop, what are the things that you're looking for? I would assume where my kids' friends are going is going to play big into that, right?
Yes,
If there's
absolutely.
already a couple friends
Yep.
going to
Yeah.
one troop, that's probably, I have a good chance of following him. What would be a reason why we wouldn't follow his friends and we would join a different troop?
Okay. So one of the big reasons is activities. What kind of camping do they do? Do they go camping once a month? Do they do a high adventure? Do they do a good summer camp? Those are the type of things you want to ask those questions. It depends on what they do. If they're just going camping in a little creek every month, maybe you want to go backpacking.
Right.
So maybe you want to join a troop that does more backpacking.
And who dictates that? Is that the troop leader, or is that more of the scouts?
I think it's a combo of
corp-
both. Yeah, I think it's a combo of both.
So if you have a really ambitious scout leader who is going to, hey, let's go up in the Sierras and do XYZ versus
My guess is that you'll do more backpacking than you would
right
mountain biking.
versus
Yeah.
let's go out to Silverado Canyon and just kind of put our tents up for the weekend and come back.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that is definitely something you're almost interviewing these different troops.
Yes, for your adventure, because it's your adventure that you're going to make. There,
No, that's huge, Mark. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, again, if I had a son who was ready to go in, that is a huge part of this.
I got to imagine that these different troops are a little competitive with each other because they're recruiting, right? We need this young talent to come in and be a part of our troop to make our troop successful. But each of those troops has something a little bit different to offer.
Yeah, I think there is. And I think it depends on, it could depend on your age. And it could definitely depends on the scoutmaster. And maybe the tradition of the troop. There might be some troops that, hey, we're a backpacking troop, and they get another scoutmaster that's like, heck yeah, we backpack and we do a lot of it.
That's a great point.
And you
That's a
might
great
just
point.
absolutely love it.
What about financial commitments? Is it equal across all?
Yeah, depending on their fundraising, I would say, of course, we came from a troop that did a tree lot fundraising, so it was our finances were lucrative. We could do a lot of stuff because of the tree lot, but I think it's kind of what you put into it as a family. You know, if you say, hey, I want him to do this, then you make that commitment. Soccer costs money, baseball costs money, scouting is going to cost some money.
So one of the big questions I had is a guy sitting next to me here. He was also part of like working the tree lot, correct?
Oh yeah.
This guy. Did he actually
right-hand
work,
man.
or was he just kind of like, leaning against the where you
I'm a big
pay?
leaner. I'm a big
And
leaner.
was he like a greeter? Was he like, or was he actually in there like getting
Yeah,
dirty?
like 45 minutes and he's still trying to tie a tree on a roof. Yeah. No, he's actually one of the best teachers I've ever.
I guarantee he is. Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, my goodness. Without him, I would
Yeah.
be horrible.
100%. A
Couple
little.
swigs.
How was that one? The first one you had?
It was good.
It was good, right?
Perfect.
These are just like I feel like this is just a good. It's just a solid IPA. These are two great beers to start with.
I've never drinking these in my
Yeah,
entire life.
Yeah,
I absolutely love them.
right.
They're fantastic.
They're amazing.
So much flavor.
They're
I'm
amazing.
blown away, right? Why haven't I been doing this
Right,
every night of
exactly.
my life with my dinner?
Right.
No, the athletics. So we're for everybody. I don't know if we showed it, but we're drinking athletics as well. And yeah, absolutely grab one.
So we get a lot of crap too on how you pour your beer, right? So,
Look at that.
I'm-
Look at that. That's gonna come up nice. So watch.
but
See, that's like look when the head gets over but doesn't spill.
But
Look at
doesn't
that.
spill. Oh, yeah,
That's perfect, dude.
So the whole tip it on the 45 and pour it down the side so you get no foam or head on the beer, like you're doing yourself a disservice.
See, I like about half of this. I like to be right about here.
Okay. So there's the
No, don't tell me it opens up because I don't want to hear that.
No. Okay. There's strategy. This is strategy. This is pro tip here. Foam on the beer is going to bring aroma. So when you sip it, you're getting the aroma. Typically the hops is coming out in the foam. So it'll affect the flavor of your beer. So if you're drinking beer with a head on it, it will actually taste better. The other thing is aesthetics. Like Mark's like, I only want a half inch of head on there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Correct.
Like that's perfect. You got to hold. Like you got to.
People can't see. So, this is Mark's ideal.
That is perfect.
If I pour a beer and the top half is foam, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And here's why. When you pour a beer, that foam is carbon dioxide releasing from the fluid. That carbon dioxide can come out in your glass or it can come out in your gut, but it's going to come out one or two places, right? So the more carbon dioxide I can get out in my glass, the less I have to worry about being in my gut. So then I'm all bloated and feeling all gross. If you're out at the bar and you're eating greasy food, when the greasy food hits this, it causes all that carbon dioxide to come out. So that's what happens in your gut. That's why 2 beers in and a couple hot wings, you feel all big and bloated. Pour your beers different, get carbon dioxide. It's still going to be carbonated, but you can get a lot of carbon dioxide out of your beer in the glass and you will feel much better for it.
Dude, that's going to be our first viral post.
That is one.
Where do we leave off? We're going to go.
Well, as you transition from Cub Scouts to Scouts, the time commitment, does that, because again, there might be this false impression that, oh my gosh, I'm in Scouts now and that's taking all of my time. What does that look like as far as time commitment?
Well, most Scouts troops meet once a week with their, I keep saying the word sponsor, but it's their
The charter
organization. And it's usually a church. The charter organization is usually a church or a school. And they just basically provide you with your area and your area of meeting. And if you have a trailer, they'll store it for you in their parking lot, et cetera, or any sort of equipment needs and all that. It's the time commitment itself, though, as a parent, you can treat that differently. But again, I always go back to, don't be a drop-off parent if you want to hang out with your kids. It's, if you need your kids to be babysat once a week, they'll probably do it for you. In our troop, we have a commitment level where we say, hey, you have to at least have some sort of position somewhere, whether you're helping with a court of honor or you're helping with the uniforms.
Organized.
Mike and I, we did many roles in it and different things, but it's, I think the time commitment itself is, I wanted to spend time with my kids and I wanted to camp with them as much as I could because that's what we could do. That was the time that I had in my life with my children and with our troop, having 3 boys in a Boy Scout thing. Yeah, if I had 3 boys in soccer, I'd be doing $250 each to play soccer or whatever for the year and then different things throughout the year. So I think that it was more of a necessity for my family.
And as you get into scouting, the parents are still involved. Because again, I think there might be this misconception where the kids do everything, but as a father, right, you can still be involved in scouting with your kids.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kid run, it's scout led. The patrols and the organization of the scouts is what we're teaching them, is the hierarchy of leadership. So yeah, they do their things. You still need parents to actually run things behind the scenes, as they say.
I think the parents in scouting are more overseers, right? So in Cub Scouts, it's very much adult led. They're young. They can't lead anything themselves, right? So the adults are planning everything. They show up, they go through whatever the adult planned, and then they go home.
And if you're camping as a Cub Scout, your dad is cooking.
Correct.
You're not cooking. You don't even know how to cook. Most kids don't. And so you plan your own meals for your kids. And when you go camping in scouting, as soon as you become a scout, that's it. You start planning your own meals with your patrol. You buy your own food. Now, yes.
So what do you guys, is this a group outing where you go and all the scouts go and they buy for the entire camp out, or does everyone individually bring in their own food?
Yeah, so it breaks down to a patrol. So let's just break down scouting. You start with just like a scout master as the parents, and then a quartermaster, and then an assistant scout master, and on down the line. Same thing in the scouts. So each scout has a patrol. So you have your troop, and then you have your patrols. You have
how many scouts in a patrol?
You can have 7 to 9. You can have 3. It depends on how big your troop is to do. So you have just like the hierarchy of the scout master and the assistant and the quartermaster, and you have a senior patrol leader. So he's the head scout,
older scout.
Yep. And he was elected. And then you have assistant senior patrol leaders, and he was picked as the cabinet.
And how old are they typically?
13, 14, 15, 16 on up to 18, of course, up to 18. And then from there, you have patrol leaders. So each of those patrol leaders are in charge of their patrol, which is anywhere from 3 to, like Mike said, we try and keep it down to 9 or 10 kids, scouts. And then within that patrol, you have an assistant patrol leader for each of those patrols. So we typically ran 65 kids in our troop. We got down to 30 or so, but we ran about 65 kids as our optimum number. So we would have 6 or 7 patrols. So huge hierarchy. And then within that other realm, you have a chaplain's aide, you have a historian, you have a librarian. All of those are positions of leadership. You have quartermasters, little quartermasters that help get stuff done, and they all report to the senior patrol leader.
So it sounds like when you get into scouts, I mean, you really are, no matter where you're at, you're almost in some type of leadership form.
Exposed to leadership early on.
Right.
So the new scouts, in those patrols Mark was talking about, are typically broken up by age. So you're going to be in a patrol with kids that are either a year older or a year younger than you.
Yeah.
They don't deviate from that. So you don't have to worry about, your 11-year-old scout coming in and there's some 17-year-old kid, standing next to him in the patrol. what they'll do is they'll take those older scouts and they'll make them the patrol leaders for the first year till those new scouts understand the program and what's going on. And then they'll elect one of their own, one of those younger scouts, to become the patrol leader.
So once they learn the ropes, now they're their own patrol. They can elect their own people within themselves.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's called learning leadership at a fast level.
Mark had asked the question, how does it work for food when you're going to go camping? So do you want to get into...
Sure. So the difference between, we talked about Cub Scouts where the parents would buy the food and you go camping. Every month, if we, in our troop, we would go camping. So the week prior at our troop meeting, at one point we would separate into our patrols and plan a menu. And you would elect a grub master for that camp out. Now that grub master also needs to, usually he needs it to sign off on some sort of a requirement to advance. So your whole goal in scouting is to advance. So you want to do your leadership and you want to do your grub master and you want to get your different things done because that's all advancing you into the next rank. And so you're no longer your grade and your age no longer tell you what rank you are. You have to earn those ranks now.
Got it.
Yeah. And so that grub master, that the week before we go camping, they break off and they plan their menu. And that patrol plans the menu. And the grub master writes down all the ingredients or writes down what they're going to plan. And then they do a separate line of what they need to buy. And they have to stick to that. And we usually give them a budget so they stay within that realm, and they go to the store with their parent and they buy their foods. They bring their receipt, make sure that they're within their realm. Take a cooler home from the quartermaster that night, pack it with ice, come back on Friday, go camping.
Sick.
They set up their own stoves. They set up their own kitchens. They set up their own everything, and they cook their own food.
Wow.
And there'll be times when they burn all their food and it tastes horrible, but you know what? They're not going to die. They're not going to starve. And they learn often in scouting through failure. There are going to be times when the younger scouts are like, we get to pick whatever we want. We're getting steaks, but this might be a winter camp out and it's going to be cold outside. But they go and they get their steaks, and then they quickly learn, hey, it's really difficult to cook steaks in the cold, in the dark. When all the older scouts who learned the lesson, cup of noodle is the way to go on cold campouts because all we got to do is boil water, and they're cheap, and we can get a bunch of them.
Right.
So they learn really quick because, hey, sky's the limit. Get what you want. As long as it's not all chocolate milk and Twinkies, they'll get signed off. There is still adult oversight. Like we're going to make sure.
And on a side note, real quick, we're going to deviate for a minute in this thing. On a side note, the adults have their own patrol as well. It's called Old Gulch Patrol in our troop. And we have a grub master that says, yeah, I'll cook for all the adults.
Tell me you're not buying cup of noodles, Mike.
We're not, no.
Oh, sir, not when I'm a grub master. When I first started grub mastering in the troop, the first time I went out, we went to Death Valley, and I did Hawaiian chicken with rice pilaf and asparagus.
Legit.
I did carne asada tacos from scratch. Some of the dads were like, you cook better than my wife. And I was like, well, sorry. So I make it really well, and I learned how to cook for all these guys, up to 65. I've cooked up to 65 people on a camp out before and fed them all really well. But that was one of the things on this side note I want to talk about. While I was cooking, some of the kids they had these little red stoves and they said, we can't cook more than mac and cheese. And they really couldn't. They could pan fry some stuff and this and that. And one of the boys was like, you're having ribeye steaks. I had ribeye steaks one night.
Yeah, you got this badass Blackstone.
And I said, well, you guys can do the same. And then we realized, okay, when we got them all 2-burner stoves, and within a few months,
that's cool.
Some of the older scouts were doing fish and chips and.
Well, no, that is true, right? You're only as good as the equipment you have, right? In anything.
And I bet one of the guys, I didn't bet him, I challenged him, and I said, hey, I bet you can't cook better than me. He goes, oh, really? And man, that boy took off, and
that's got to be so cool.
It was great to watch me.
Right. Yeah, that's got to be cool seeing these kids do that, right? Yeah. And just kind of advance in whatever you're out there doing, but especially the cooking.
And then I put them all down and make something really extra special. Like I'll smoke chicken and bring my little Traeger and hook it to a battery. And I'll do smoked chicken one day.
Okay, so you're going to wow. You have like the head of Scouting USA.
Yeah, no problem.
Is coming to your, to your campsite. What is your meal going to be?
I'll do the best carne asada and chicken tacos with rice and beans, the whole thing, the whole layout for him. He won't stop eating tacos until all that meat's gone.
Mark's pretty famous for his queso dip too.
I have a secret bean dip that I usually cook in a little oven on the stove and get everyone primed before I'm cooking. Yeah.
So do you make your own salsas? Have you gotten to the salsa?
I have, but typically if I'm going to throw out a big thing of that, I'll get a typical salsa that has a little heat to it to get the taste buds going, and then throw out my bean dip, and then they're ready to eat.
So your bean dip you make? So what do you what do you put in there?
I can't tell you.
What's
I mean,
the
come
secret?
on, don't be that guy. I mean, you cannot be that guy.
I'm gonna.
I mean, dude, there could be a dad right now. He's in Minnesota. He's a scout leader. He wants to go knock the socks off of his camp out in 3 weeks.
You better get on the Instagram and start figuring that out.
He's legit.
No, that's awesome. Well,
It's not
I think that's cool because what I've noticed as I've gotten older, you know, I don't need to prove to myself that I can rough it anymore. You know, I've done a ton of camping and all these things. So to go to a camp out, I would, you know, and if you're making those types of meals, like that's cool. Like that's what I want, right? Like we're still out there. We're still.
To me, that's the best time to eat all that.
Right.
Right.
Like how fun is that, right? Like we don't want to eat cup of noodles, right? We don't want to eat just some garbage. Like the fact that you're doing that,
cheese.
right? You're doing that is so cool.
We have a dad also that makes this fruit salad in the mornings from scratch right there.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. It's off the charts, man. In fact, I beg him every time I'm grub master. I'm like, you're going to make your fruit salad, right? Oh yeah.
He'll even make vegetarian for those dads that don't eat meat.
That's
right?
cool.
So you should do a cookbook, Mark.
Camping cookbook?
Like a like a
For
scout,
sure.
a
That would be
scout
amazing.
For sure. That'd be
camping
fun,
cookbook, right? Like,
Dude, that would be so cool.
yeah, we had talked about doing it in my Girl Scout troop because we had done some cool stuff by accident. One of the girls doesn't like hot cocoa because she got COVID and it screwed up her taste buds, and so chocolate tasted really bad to her. So she would drink tea because it's like you were camping. We just want hot water. We're adding hot water to cocoa. She would drink peppermint tea. So they have these peppermint tea bags. Well, if you take a peppermint tea bag and put it in your hot cocoa, it tastes like a junior mint.
Oh,
And it was
beautiful.
like, whoa, hold on. That's a game changer first thing in the morning. You're
That
like
is.
throwing back junior mint.
Yeah.
Or you can cook a pancake batter in the bacon grease and make little donuts that are like next level good.
Oh yeah.
Wait, how does that? What do you mean? So you have your bacon grease.
So you cook all your bacon, right?
Yep.
And you know, you're cooking probably twice as much.
What are you
bacon.
cooking it on? Like in a skillet or just
Yeah,
like
like
on
a cast iron skillet.
Yep,
So you cook all your bacon and
Yep.
you get way more bacon
Right.
grease than you know what to do
for
with.
sure.
So now you take your pancake batter that you were going to make pancakes with and you just
Deep fried.
put that in there. And
Do you have a little like donut?
No. You're just putting little dollops in there, essentially like
Yeah.
little pancakes.
Yeah.
But it tastes more like a donut than it does a
Right.
pancake because it's being deep fried in the bacon grease.
yeah.
Dude, some powdered sugar on that. God,
With
it's
some-
so good.
Peppermint hot chocolate.
Dude, I'm telling you. So like we would stumble across all these like
Yeah.
weird little
Right.
hacks, and it was the other thing we did was pancakes. So we would make a boatload of pancakes, and there was only 4 girls in my troop. We were small but mighty, but we would make too many pancakes. So what do you do with leftover food? You put them in a Ziploc bag, throw them in the cooler. So one day we were making hot dogs for lunch because we figure quick and easy. So we make all these hot dogs, but we ran out of buns. We only brought 1 package of buns, and the girls were eating 2 hot dogs
those
each.
babies up.
So so of course you give all the buns to the girls, and I'm like, well, there's no buns left. I'm like, oh, you know what? There's some room
Batter.
temperature pancakes left in the cooler, so you can take a pancake and roll a hot dog up in it.
That's
Dude.
cool. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
You could do burgers with. I was like, we're never bringing bread ever again. Like everything is just going to be. If it's a bread, it's going to be the pancake.
Pancake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can use a pancake for everything.
You learn, and you learn different things too. Back to that cookbook too. When you're cooking for a lot of people, like anywhere from even 9 to 12, or even like I said, the last camp out I did we did a combo thing, and I cooked for 25, almost 30 adults. And we went through 23 pounds of carne asada. And then you're doing bacon. Always cut your bacon in half. You cannot cook bacon fast when it's the length that it comes in.
Interesting. So do
When
you
you're
do
mass
that
cooking.
prior to?
Yeah. Just take a knife
Yeah.
and right in the package, and then I just start laying it out, and it just goes faster. That's just a little tip.
Do you have to do that cookbook?
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
really,
yeah, I should probably release
that's-
one. Yeah,
I mean,
all the fun stuff that
yeah.
we've done. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, because then other guys can go and just own it. You know, they can be like, shit, I don't know how to cook for 60 people, 30 people, 40 people.
And 4 of them are vegetarian.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I could do that. That'd be fun.
No, that's super cool.
Okay, so we talked about scouts were cooking for themselves. We talked about the grub master.
Right. So I think, did you answer the time commitment?
Yeah, we were just finishing it up, and the time commitment is up to you. You could go to every meeting and become one of the leaders and help kids like I do or have done, or you could actually, a lot of troops have a back end, which is called a committee, and they need a committee. They have a committee leader They have a treasurer, people that collect finances. They have a camping chair. Someone needs to call all these camps in advance, months in advance on some of them. Some of these camps, we got to plan 6 to 8 months ahead of time. And that all has to be done. Obviously, that's not going to be done by a 13-year-old boy who doesn't even know what we're talking about. We're teaching them something different. So there is a whole back end of direction and producing just to make that thing work. And maybe that's your niche. You don't necessarily have to go on the campouts. You can just order them.
So for an adult, you can fit in somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? Whether you're the treasurer or finance chair, where every week you're
collecting money,
you're dealing with finances. That's a pretty big commitment.
Yeah.
And that's within some people's wheelhouse. If you're already in finance, maybe that's speaking to you. Or if your job doesn't allow you to give up that much time, we had things as easy as once a year, you had to collect all the medical forms that we needed to recharter the troop, right?
Yeah.
So you had a small commitment once a year, but you still had a job to do.
That took the time up for maybe 2 or 3 weeks at meetings and some emailing and saying, hey, I got to chase this person down, and then you're done. And that is so important, just that job, because how is the scoutmaster going to do that also? How is that finance chair going to do that also? And you just took a burden off of somebody, and you took that whole burden on, and that's your piece to the pie.
But no matter how big or small your role was within the troop, when it came time, even if it was just that once a year, you got to be around all the other adults that were a part of the troop, and you got to meet people and understand. Yeah. The more involved you got, the less mystery there was behind how all of this operates and what's coming up.
There's a spot for you in a troop, that's for sure. And you can always do a helping hand.
So if I'm the parent of a kid and he's transitioning into high school, and there's so many other things now that are going on, there's the social aspect, there's sports, right? There's so many things. As a parent, how do you continue to maybe help your child kind of stay in scouting?
Right. So if you don't have a scouter or a child that really took on and, hey, scouting's going to be my thing, and you have someone like, I want to do scouting and football, I want to do scouting and baseball. All of my kids are the same at that same point. Mm-hmm. Some of the kids made fun of them for being in scouts, and you're like, really? You forget, and they just don't know how cool scouting is, because my kids know how to use a shotgun and a rifle, and have been on several high adventures and camped for 7 days out in a canoe in the Boundary Waters without any supervision other than a couple of adults, right? That's pretty cool stuff. So you can make fun of a scout, but he's doing stuff that you don't know about. So to me, that's just like, that's where you have to talk with your kid and say on the social issue, like, hey man, scouting's cool. I know you don't want to be seen in your uniform at school, whatever, but scouting's cool. As far as fitting in the sports, you just have to fit it in. You have to be in touch with your kids and say, hey, what's more important? A lot of times, if you know this, say you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I'm gonna listen to that old guy. Have your kid wrapped up with most of his stuff by the time he's 14 and 15. Make sure he gets through his leadership and help him along, help him push through some things and hit those meetings and hit those campouts and those merit badges and be part of it up until he's 15. And then, hey, I did my Eagle project and I just became an Eagle Scout at 15. 16, I think that's a perfect time, actually, in my opinion, to be an Eagle Scout. I think 13 and 14 is a little early. They don't quite understand some of the stuff. Some of them do, some of them don't. And Eagle Scout, if you don't know, is the completion of the rank up, even though you can still be in Scouts up until your 18th birthday.
Did any of your kids ever come to you and maybe want to step back or want to quit?
Yeah.
And what was that? Yeah, both of you guys can answer this. Like, what was that conversation like?
Great question. So I did experience this with my kids, and one of them went well during COVID. We pushed them through and did our thing. When my twins came, one of them didn't want to finish, wanted to quit. He was still within reason of getting his Eagle ranking, but in the middle of it, he's like, I'm done, Dad. I don't want to do this. And we're like, that's not possible. I don't want you to think that. I don't care what they say. It's not going to matter. I won't regret it. Yes, you will. All right. And at one point I just said, okay, you can bounce out. I'm not going to push it anymore. I'm not going to fight this. I can see. I let the wind out of me and I said, go for it. Don't worry about it. On the side note of why he came back so quickly is he was at home with 2 of his buddies that had no clue what scouting was. 0 clue. And they got hungry and he's like, oh, I'll make something. He goes, well, one of the boys said, well, don't you have to wait for your mom to come home and cook for you? And he goes, why would I do that? And at that point they said, well, how'd you learn how to cook all of this? And he goes, well, I'm a Boy Scout in scouting. And they could not believe it. And they thought it was the coolest thing on the planet. And at that point he went, this is cool. It triggered something in his mind.
That's awesome.
Yep. those two boys helped him with his Eagle project and couldn't believe that he never invited them to a scout event.
So I feel like the nudge is you definitely will regret it. I feel like an Eagle Scout is such an amazing accomplishment. Again, I've never been part of this, but it just feels like if someone says they're an Eagle Scout, right away, you had to do so many things. And again, if I'm a parent out there, right, and I have a 13, 14, 15-year-old and they are close, but again, other things are now in their mind and in their life that they're doing and they want to bail out. Is there any tips you could give a listening, one of our listeners to just both of you guys? Because you're both right there.
The same problem, yeah.
So I think the key and the advice I got when we went to the troop to explore our options and what troop was good for us, and the wife of the scoutmaster at the time said, if you come to this troop, we're really active. And there's lots of opportunities for the scouts to increase in rank because we're so active, right? The opportunities are plentiful. They just have to get after it. And she said, there's going to come a time when they hit high school, right? And scouting has trouble competing with sports, cars, and girls. Scouting's going to be fourth on that list every single time. Yep. So really her suggestion was, if they're far enough along where Eagle is attainable, they'll stick with it. If they have to compete with all those other things and they're like, it's so much work, I have so far left before I'm going to hit my Eagle, she goes, they won't finish. So really taking that from, 5th grade through freshman year of high school.
Absolutely.
That's where they really have to buckle down and hit their mark.
Put something on that. The reason why we say that is not just go to the meetings, but do all your leadership, because in certain ranks, you have to do 6 months of leadership. And that's what we're talking about. So if you're hit 15 and 16 and you still have 6 months of leadership and 2 more ranks, there's the competition right there. They're not going to do it.
It's tough, right?
Yeah.
They want to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel when other things are vying for their time. And so if they're not putting in the work on the front end, they may peter out and say, oh, well, it's not achievable. I can't see that far in the future.
Oh.
So the other thing is when it comes to, pushing your kids, like Mark said, I have a son who wants to stop and he's like, well, I don't think that's a good idea. We as parents learn really quick, and we're probably going to get into a lot of parenting aha moments that we learned through scouting, was it's their journey. Like, we can't control their journey. I can't make them, or I can't make my son fulfill a requirement. I can't make my son do his Eagle project. Now, some parents do, and they're really shortchanging their scout.
Their scout, yeah.
Right. So our job as parents, when you transition from Cub Scouts to Boy Scouts or scouting, is to be as encouraging as we can, but I can't force him and I can't do it for him. It's his journey or her journey, if you have a daughter, but they have to make those decisions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think that's such a great point, because I feel like so many parents, especially in youth sports, it's their journey.
Right.
And they will force the kids into situations that the parents want to see an outcome. And again, I think that's a great point. Is scouting similar to that? Is it similar to the crazy?
When you go past 15.
Okay, so you kind of get into
get
the scouting parent.
Unless you have that scout or that boy or girl that says, yeah, I love it here.
Yeah, this is my thing.
And they're out there, but not all of them.
So on the flip side is, if it really is time to pull the plug on scouting, and it's not a negative, you've gotten so many amazing things. You've done amazing trips and campouts and hiking, and you've really had leadership roles, and you've done all this. I'm not being lazy. I'm not just, I don't want to go. Like, is it just as a parent and you maybe, oh man, the Eagle Scout is within grasp?
Okay, you go first. Mine is have a conversation. It starts with a conversation with your kids, and not all conversations go well, right? But at some point, as long as they're going to go into something positive, maybe that's just what it is. I mean, I had a dad that was in Cub Scouts with me the whole time, and push, and we did all the stuff together. And then he just called and said, my kid's just so far behind, and you guys are all so far ahead, and he just doesn't feel like he can do it. And he's surfing now, and he's playing guitar and doing all kinds of things, and he's going to a school. And I said, what a wonderful life.
Right.
It just wasn't his fit, and that's okay.
So you think maybe, again, back to the youth sports and even scouting, it's more the parents. We're looking at this. If you're an Eagle Scout, damn, that is pretty cool. Like, that is an amazing, and it is an amazing
I think it's
accomplishment.
Only 4% of all Boy Scouts become Eagle.
Right. No, that sounds right.
That's a small percentage, yeah.
So I think what I learned in having the same conversations with my son, because he petered out too. And he's like, Dad, I think I'm done. Like, I don't want, he couldn't see past the commitment. And really the conversation is, I think with youth, they can't see things to scale, like as adults, right?
Yeah.
Like if you told me like, hey, something's happening next year, it's like, oh, that's going to be here in no time. You tell a 13-year-old kid, wait a year, it might as well be, a lifetime.
Yeah.
So I think what you have to do is you have to not focus on that end goal of Eagle because it doesn't seem achievable, and you have to break it down into bite-sized pieces. Well, let's really go into what is this commitment that we need to make in order to get to your goal, right? It's 1 day a week. Okay, well, I have sports and I can't make all the meetings. Okay, well, let's commit to every other, and we'll talk to your coach and say, hey, we have scouting. This is a life skill. This is feeding into me. This is making me the person I am today. You want me to be a good teammate and a good player? Scouting is a part of that. And so you split your time back and forth, and you have those hard conversations. You break it down into bite-sized pieces. Hey, you have 2 leadership spots that you need to fill. Those are 6 months each. You need to get on it now. Like, let's put a plan in place. And if we just focus on what the next hurdle is, we can get to the end of the race, right? I can't look at the finish line from the start line. I have to look at the first hurdle in front of me. That's the only thing that matters. I have to clear that first.
That's a good way to look at it.
And I think as parents, we want to solve all of our kids' problems. Like, that's kind of the world we live in today. Is I don't want my kids to have any problems. I want them to have an easy life. I think we really do a disservice to our kids by solving their problems for them. When your kid is 13, 14, 15, we really need to start coaching them and not making their decisions for them. We need to give them options to choose. And, if you're a half decent person, you can make sure that the options you're presenting are better than the options that they're presenting, right?
Yeah, right.
It's not hard to manipulate those conversations, but it has to start somewhere. Like, well, from my perspective, if we did it this way, challenge their thinking. Because we expect them to have the same wisdom that we have at 50 years old. Like, I gave my son way too much credit. Like, well, your logic is flawed. Like, why are you thinking this way? Well, of course he's thinking that way. He's 15 years old. Like, he doesn't know any different.
One thing, you say that funny, one thing I don't expect them to have the wisdom that I have or to live the same life I had, but I do expect them to have the same respect that I had for older people at that age. And I think if the child has respect for the situation, it makes it easier.
For sure.
Yeah. That just came to my head right when you were saying that. I was like,
but I think they have to feel like they have skin in the game, and they get to make, it's their decision to make
Right.
at the end of the day. I'm not going to pick my kid up, put him in the car and drive him to scouts and carry him into the meeting. Like, at some point they're just going to say, no, I'm not going. And then the conversation's kind of over at that point. But we have to do the best we can to encourage them, because we can see past what they can see. Like, hey, you're close to the finish line. We've spent years and years and years doing this. It's so close. It's attainable. So we have to encourage them to keep going. And I would say 8 out of 10 Eagle Scout. There's a moment in the Eagle Scout ceremony where the scout comes up and he kind of gives like a speech and thanks the people. And I would say 8 out of 10 say, thank you, Mom and Dad, for not letting me quit when I wanted to stop.
yeah, I've seen that 100 times.
You have to have seen that. Yeah.
This
Got to be.
This is such
the
a
narrative.
great moment, and it's not lost on the scout, because they went through that journey, and
Right.
they questioned, and they wanted to take the easy way out, and the parents encouraged them correctly, not force them, but encourage them correctly, and then to see them, achieve that rank is kind of cool.
Yeah. So what I learned as a parent, and this just goes back to the scouting thing, when you force your kid to do something, it turns to rebellion, right? So you have to encourage them to do that, and they'll be success. And if it's not what the success you thought, maybe it's a different success.
Yeah.
Hard to do as a parent.
What experiences have you had with maybe parents overreaching at that point, wanting to do too many things?
So typically as a parent, when we overreach, it's because we don't want him to fail. So scouting, and they say this quite a bit, is the safest place to fail. You won't find a safer place to fail than Boy Scouts or scouting, because where's the pressure on it? So if you don't succeed at that meal, or if you don't succeed at that leadership spot, there's going to be another spot for you in there. There's going to be another leadership spot for you.
And what's the classic overreach that a parent makes in scouting?
Probably camping. Just, hey, you can't do that. You got to set the tent up. You got to do this. Personally, I don't know what they overreach in their kids, but I've seen it camping.
When we first started, we were brand new parents, and we didn't understand the scouting program. And actually it was Nicole and I at a meeting, and we got a kind of a lecture from the advancement chair, and that's the person that's in charge of rank advancement. This lady actually decided whether or not your scout would get the next rank. And to get a rank, you have to fulfill, your
commitment and your stuff.
20 requirements in their little scout book, whether it's tie the knot or build a campfire or whatever it is. We had some questions, and we went to her and we said, hey, so, my scout needs to do this, this, and this. And she was like, yeah, okay. She goes, so have your scout email me and I'll explain it to them. And we're like, well, no, he doesn't know. And so I'm trying to help. And she's like, yeah, it's not your job to help. You can help by telling your scout to email me and I will break it down for them. So what they were doing was trying to take the onus off of the adult to solve the problem for the scout. And hey, it's the scout's problem to solve. Your job is to encourage them. And the way you can encourage them is by helping them write an email to me. So at some point I became involved in the advancement, and we would get emails from scouts and they would send an email saying, I need to schedule a meeting with you. And that was it. That was like one line that came on the email.
So you knew it was from a scout.
You knew it was a scout.
Wasn't a 5-paragraph.
And the reply would be, when you send an email, there are expectations. There needs to be a greeting. There needs to be what this is about. There needs to be a closing, and you need to put your name at the end. And then I would give an example. If I was going to write the email from my perspective, this is what it would look like. And until you can send an email in the proper format, we're not scheduling anything. And you would send that back. And then sometimes you would get an email from a parent, hey, my scout's crying, and what are you doing? It's like, your scout failed. But again, to Mark's point, this is a safe pace to fail. We're going to learn from failure. Early on, the scouts fail all the time. You have a scout and he's like, hey, I need to find a merit badge counselor. And he'll go to an assistant scoutmaster, an adult in the uniform, and say, who's the merit badge counselor for this merit badge? And Morgan was great. And he would say, I don't deal with first year scouts. And he would just turn around and walk away. And the scout, they're new. And my son comes to me with tears in his eyes. And I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, I asked and he said he doesn't deal with first year scouts. And I don't know what to do. And my initial instinct as a parent was to be upset and well, I'm going to go complain. Who's the scoutmaster? This is bullshit. My kid shouldn't be crying. But really the scouting program is, just because you didn't get the answer you wanted doesn't mean that your journey is over. Right? You asked the wrong person. The lesson here is, well, go ask somebody else.
Yeah.
And if you can't find an adult to help you, there's a chain of command. Go to your patrol leader, go to the senior patrol leader, find an older scout, go ask.
Which was his way of saying, without telling him, go ask a scout. You're asking the wrong guy.
And so the advice to new parents that are in scouting is trust the process. Ask questions, but your question shouldn't be, how can I solve this problem? The question should be, how can I best encourage my scout to keep going and try the next thing? Help me understand.
So it's almost like you're training the parent not to do overreach.
Right.
At the same time, the scout succeeds. Because
I feel like that would be so common. You'd see so many overreaches by the parents, and that's just kind of the normal.
I catch myself doing it to my own kids,
Though the new parent meeting is always when you're in a leadership position, you have these new parent meetings and you're like, hey, my name's Mike. I'm the, so-and-so chair or whatever your position is. And, here's my email address and here's my phone. Don't call me. Right. And they all kind of what? And you're like, well, no, really, you shouldn't be contacting me. Unless it's an emergency, in which case I'm expecting you to come talk to me. Your scouts can contact me or reach out. And if they're reaching out to me and I'm not the right person, I'm going to tell them no.
Right.
And I'm not going to tell them who to contact. I'm going to say, you need to contact the finance chair or the advancement chair or whatever it is. And then my expectation is they're going to go to the website and look up who that is, right? I'm not going to give them the answer. I'm going to push them in the right direction. And then they have to accept that extra task to go figure it out. Again, and it's a little frustrating at first because you don't understand what the process is. But the one thing that we always say, and Nicole all the time, trust the process. We tell new parents, trust the process. If you have questions, ask. We'll explain it to you, but trust the process and let your kids fail and encourage them to continue. And once they crack the code of, hey, this is how it works.
How to do proper communication.
Unstoppable.
Yep.
Kids are unstoppable and relentless. They start, once they know how to do an email and who to send it to, I get busy at work and I don't reply right away. By the time I circle back and check, that kid sent me 4 emails because it's been 4 days.
Yeah.
But how cool is that to see these kids, to your point, don't know how to write an email, then a couple of years later, they're just killing it.
Well, think about this. Our kids text. Their first communication, written communication typically, is text. We grew up writing letters. We wrote a letter in like the 3rd grade,
For
right?
sure.
And your teachers
In cursive.
right.
Yep.
Your teacher's explaining like you got to address it and you got to have they don't learn that. They just go through text. So the first time a scout sends an email in his life,
It's
treats it like a text. And like,
Right.
this is not acceptable. I'm not your buddy. This is a formal communication with an adult. Let's set some standards. And they learn really quick. Oh, this is different. Just like all the communication they have with adults, right? If you just come up and be like, hey, I'm like, excuse me, hey is not okay. I'm not talking to you. Like you need to leave. And when you figure out how to address me, you can come back and address me. Like I don't respond to hey.
Yeah. In fact, a lot of times they're actually supposed to call us by Mr. Boys or Mr. Band, and even our own kids on campouts. It's not, hey, Dad. Imagine 30 hey dads all day long. It's, hey, Mr. Boys.
Dad.
So that's it's pretty fun. But back to that point, there's another little nugget for your own self of why you keep scouting and helping these kids is because that joy you see in them succeeding, that one little piece.
And I would imagine it's also fun when you're on the campouts, right? And you're getting amazing meals and you have that fellowship with the other dads and, the kids are doing their thing and you're also in these really cool spots and able to just kind of hang out. And I don't know, I would imagine that's got to be fulfilling.
It's an interesting dynamic now that moms are getting involved. So moms are kind of new to scouting. It always used to be kind of a dad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so not even like
we have single moms and they're going to go scouting.
Right.
They want to be involved in their child's life, so they're going to do it. I'm all for that.
100% be involved. What's interesting in hearing from the scouts is when there's a scoutmaster, or there's an adult male that's there, we're a little more lenient. Like, hey, if you're going to throw rocks, like don't hit anybody, right? But we're out in wilderness and we're going to allow you to do boy things, right? Well, it's hard for sometimes those moms to not be a mom. And it's like, well, no, don't throw rocks. Like something bad could happen. And trying to get the moms to turn off the mom role sometime, I think was a little bit of a learning curve when we started getting moms in that role. Not that they're not fantastic and great at everything that they do, but understanding your role as a scout leader is different than your role as a parent, right? And you have to allow these kids to get dirty and scrape their knee and be boys.
And teach each other.
I think that's a great
the edge
point.
method
That
of-
really is a great
They
point.
call the edge method, where you teach, the younger scout looks up to the older scout.
Right.
Just the way it goes. So,
And so when you go all the way through, you get your Eagle Scout. I wanted both of you to kind of talk about what does that look like? Like when you see these kids, maybe you started with them in Cub Scouts or you saw them starting in Boy Scouts and they're 10, 11, and here they are 5, 6 years later, and they do achieve that Eagle Scout. What is that experience like?
Mark's done it a bunch of times, so I'll let him answer first.
Yeah, like when you see that, like what is that like?
it's funny you say that. I've seen several ages grow because I've been in this troop for 11 or 12 years. So I've seen all these kids grow up to become men. And I've seen the kids just behind me, and you turn around some months and you turn around and you look up. You have to look up at some of them. You're like, well, now I'm 6'3". I'm
Right.
no longer the tall guy. So, it's mind blowing because they just went from a little 10.5-year-old to this kid that can go and do anything. And when they achieve that Eagle or they achieve all their stuff and you're at their ceremony, their Eagle Court of Honor, and it's just like, wow, I was a part of that.
Right.
And they're telling stories about how, we did this and we did that and we went through this process or I did this. And you're like, yeah, I watched you at every single camp out get better and better and better at what you do. The things that they learn in scouting I think it's irreplaceable. There's not a school teaching that. I could tell you that right now.
You can see the difference. Even like, my son just got his Eagle. There was a difference when he was on the stage being recognized for achieving that. I think there was like a change that happened during that, 45-minute ceremony.
At the
Like,
last minute, he changed into somebody different too.
he
like
grew.
Yeah.
He realized, look at everything that I've done. Like the Eagle ceremony is actually a really cool ceremony. If you have the chance to go to one and you get invited, like I would highly recommend it. I think it's very interesting and you get a lot of information about what it takes to be an
And
Eagle.
take your younger scout with you because it's important for them to see.
It is like the equivalent of like, quasi becoming a man. And when you stop to think all the things that it took them to achieve this rank in this moment in their life and all the adversity they overcame and all the learning and all the growing and maturing, it is really cool to see. And then there's often a slideshow where you put up, the picture of them as a Cub Scout and they're adorable. And then all the way their progression through. And then you look at this person standing before you and you're like,
There's a grown man.
you might be 17, but you're a man.
Yeah.
Like the things that you have done and sky's the limit. Like we have produced a more bulletproof kid having gone through scouting than not.
For sure.
When he had those moments maybe of wanting to not continue, was that, what does that look like as far as, your advice or his realization that I don't want to give this up. I'm at this point, I'm so close? Or how did you kind of maneuver those instances where you're like, I'll give my advice and I'm hoping he's going to come back, but ultimately it's his decision? Or how did you kind of...
Yeah, I think he was struggling with splitting his time with other interests, right? Like he was big into music and playing the guitar and into sports. And I think kind of similar to Mark's story, like it wasn't cool. Like
and the burnout of going every week.
Right.
It is a commitment, right? And it was the camping on the weekends. He's like, I'd rather be hanging with my friends on the weekends than going camping with these guys. Mind you, they're my friends, but I've been camping 50,000 times with Boy Scouts. It's just another camp out, as I think how he was viewing it. But he couldn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, we only have to do this like 6 more times and you'll be getting your eagle, right? Like, let's not quit right before the finish line here. So reminding him of that. And then he was very concerned about how uncool his perception of what his friends would think about it. Even to this day, like I think most of his friends don't realize that he was in scouting and all the amazing trips that he got to do. And I tried to take the same path Mark did. Yeah, but your friends didn't go sail for 2 weeks, the Florida Keys on a sailboat manned by scouts, right? You guys don't get to go canoeing through the Great Lakes, and you guys don't get to go on these amazing backpacking adventures for 10 days through New Mexico. Like, there's amazing things that you got to do that your friends would be like, wow, that's kind of cool.
That's my legitimate next question for both you guys is why is there that perception that scouting is not cool?
So I don't want to answer for Mark. I think there are some kids who are not into sports, right? And so whether it's like, when we were kids, it would be like the nerdy Dungeons and Dragon kids. Like they were into scouting because they didn't have another thing and it was social and it gave them purpose. Now it's for everybody. So you got the jock kids, the popular kids, the nerdy kids, they all come together under this outdoor camping adventure type of program where they all find their place.
Yeah. It's the perception of it is sort of maybe from movies or Hollywood type perception, where it's not cool or it's just, like you said, it's the nerds or whatever. And that's what the envision you have. And when in fact it's, it's not a nerd thing. It's an every kid thing. Right. Like let's all grow up and understand.
Yeah. Nothing you guys have said.
It's just a dude thing.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a dude thing.
Yeah.
I was fortunate. I was telling Mike, my dad grew up in Pennsylvania, hunting, fishing, all that. He moved to California. And
sounds like a Boy Scout.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he wasn't, but he moves to California in 1970. And ever since I could walk, we were fishing and hunting. I got my license at 13, 14. My brother got his at 10, 11. But most of the friends we would take I was telling Mike this, had never put a worm on a hook, had never held a gun, had never do any of these things. So yeah, I think
well, it's getting worse and worse and worse.
Right, it's getting worse now.
Now they just watch someone on their phone put a worm on a hook instead of.
But do you think how many parents don't know how to put a worm on a hook? Right. So your couple of friends growing up who got to experience it with you, there was how many that didn't have that advantage and grew up and never did that.
Right.
I think that's the one great thing about scouting is as a parent, we're limited by our own experiences, right? But you have this amazing program that's going to teach your kids self-reliance and expose them to 1,000 different things that you probably won't be able to expose them to. Like they're going to go fishing, they're going to go hiking, they're going to go camping, they're going to do a lot of things.
They're going to go shooting. They're going to, when I was canoeing and Tristan was in my trek, canoeing through the Boundary Waters, and you're on mile 50, I never thought in 1,000 years I'd be 52 years old canoeing through the Boundary Waters.
And where's that at?
That's up in Minnesota and Canada between the borders. And you're out in the middle of nowhere. No cell phones work, nothing. You're just in a canoe with some food and some friends and kids, and you're just having the time of your life.
So to put it in context, there's a zillion lakes up there, right?
Yeah, 10,000 lakes.
So you canoe across a lake, hit land, pick up your canoes, carry them across land to the next lake,
Wow.
and then continue,
And then
your
continue
journey.
on.
So one of the other things we wanted to touch on is I feel like we've hit on all the amazing things that Scouts and Cub Scouts offers. I mean, it really is an amazing program, but they have been in the news. There's been lawsuits and just, just a lot of negative things, right? And just to explain to all of our listeners and viewers, what is the reality in scouting now and what does that look like?
Right. We do a thing in scouting called youth protection training, and we call it YPT. And scouting, because of all this stuff, has come up with this program. And if you were to take the class or to take the online class, you would understand right away what a great job they're doing to protect the youth from predators that are out there everywhere. You know, you have kids, you're going to have predators. We have a soccer, baseball, church. You're going to have a predator because kids are there, and that's just how they operate. And what they do is they teach you how to recognize that predator. And they also teach you different things that you're not allowed to do. Like you have to have 2 parents with a scout. You can't be alone with a scout ever. You can't go around a corner at a troop meeting with a scout. You have to stop right there and have another parent come. Hey, if you're going to run out to the troop trailer out in the parking lot, take another parent or 3 or 4 scouts with you. It can't be, you have to be visual the whole time. So there's things that they train you for now, and the training is exceptional. It really is exceptional. And we do it yearly in Orange County, but it is required every 2 years in the rest of the nation. If you're going to be part of scouting, one of the things California does also is background checks now. So California does a mandatory fingerprint background check if you're going to be involved in scouting. They do that with everything now. So
yeah, there's no one-on-one contact separate from the large group.
Right. And what we had touched on earlier is scouts also you don't put a 17-year-old scout with a 10-year-old scout. You know, you're age appropriate within 2 years. So your tent buddy is 10 years old, 10 and a half years old. Your tent buddy is going to be no more than 11 and a half.
And as a parent, what would that due diligence look like? So, if I'm trying to get my kid into a scouting troop, what are the best ways to go about just doing my due diligence? Is this a good environment for my kid?
I think you would ask the leadership what their youth protection program looks like, right? And if they're giving you a half-ass answer, I would take pause. And you maybe get a bad answer from one individual, so you may have to ask somebody else in the troop. But those are legitimate questions, like how do I know my kid's protected? Like what's your bullying policy, right? Like how do you handle certain situations? Like explain to me, because they're going to go camping. They're going to be gone for days or weeks at a time on scouting things. And you want to know that your child is safe. And the program has done a really, really good job of bringing awareness to the situation, right? They want everybody to understand, to Mark's point, how to identify situations that are wrong or could potentially go wrong and speak up, right? See something, say something. It's everywhere.
So when these incidents were brought to light, the scouting community, right, of America really stepped up and made significant changes to protect the safety.
They had to. I think there was a lot of assumptions, and they're getting away from, we assume people know right from wrong. So they've put safeguards into place, even any communication with a scout. So like we were talking earlier about formatting emails. If a scout would send me an email and it was just the scout that sent it directly to me, I would always reply immediately with the parent copied and say, first of all, you always have to have another adult copied on this email. It's never, ever okay in any form to be just an adult and one scout.
Yeah.
It always has to be 2 adults. And anytime there's a group, there's going to be misunderstandings, right? Yeah. Like somebody's going to say something and it got taken the wrong way, or, things often have gotten blown out of proportion, even within our troop. And people's feelings get hurt or people get accused of things. And so one of the ways that you mitigate that is you don't have one-on-one contact ever, right? So you really need to protect the scout, protect the adults, protect the troop, protect BSA by following these policies. And you have to take it serious, right? And so if you're trying to get into scouting and it seems like the organization that you're looking at or the local troop or whatever, and they're kind of like, oh, it's no big
just
deal.
do that YPT thing real quick. It's like, whoa.
Right.
Let's take a step back and.
Yeah, it's significant. It needs to be taken seriously. You don't want to just keep clicking next and blow through the training. Like you really.
I think that's a great point that you guys are making, is that has to be taken seriously. And if you're interviewing a troop that doesn't approach it like that, you may want to look elsewhere.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that we need to hit on?
There is, and I probably should have done more homework. There's like some statistics where it talks about, if you look at scouts that have gotten their eagle, and you look at the scouts that got their eagle where their parents were involved in scouting, or the scouts that got the eagle where their parents were just dropping off or not really involved, the percentages are so crazy out of whack.
Yeah.
So
If it's a family affair, you're probably going to eagle out.
it's
That's a good point.
It's like it's just this crazy spread. Like when your parents are involved in some way, not as a leader, not leading the campouts, you don't have to be the scoutmaster, but you have some type of role within the troop, the likelihood of your scout staying involved and continuing is exponentially higher. And it's probably because there's less questions. Like the parents understand the program and they're probably better suited to encourage their kids, and they know they have an outlet when they have a question who they can ask because they know the other parents. It's not this big unknown where my kid's like, I don't want to go there anymore. And you're like, good. I don't feel like driving you 15 minutes to the meetings once a week anyway.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah.
you have a resource group available to you just simply by getting involved in some way.
Yeah.
What is scouting? What life lesson have you taken from being involved in scouting?
I think there's two, right? As a parent, again, I can't stress it enough, like allow your children to fail, right? In a safe space. Like, obviously you're not going to let them run amok and get hurt or cause harm or something, but allow them to fail and come ask for help rather than guiding their life and doing everything for them. Because I think we do a really big disservice.
And cut them short. Yeah.
For sure. Sure. The other thing is in dealing with youth as a man, and this is probably going to sound sexist and rub people the wrong way. As a man, I have certain expectations for boys, right? And so when you're getting older, when, one of the things that we did in some board of reviews was you need to come in and shake the hands of everybody on the board and introduce yourself. And so when a scout would come up to me and shake my hand and he gave me this limp wristed, nasty, no, that I would stop and say, that's not how you shake a hand. I don't hold you accountable because you may have never been taught, but I'm going to teach you because that's my role as a man. Right. You're a boy. I'm going to teach you. And if you only learn one thing in your entire life from me, some random guy you met at scouting, it's going to be how to shake somebody's hand and look them in the eye.
That's a big one.
Your uniform, like how do you wear a uniform, right? What's a gig line? Like your belt buckle lines up with your buttons, that lines up with your zipper. Like there's a certain way you need to do things, and you have to teach these people how to do it, how to format an email. So it's okay to say, no, that's wrong. And you definitely have to tell them that was not correct, but I'm going to help you and show you the right way to do it. And then my expectation is every time we do this, you understand the right way because now I've showed you. So if you do it wrong next time, it's because you're not taking what I'm giving you, and we'll have that conversation too. And it's not going to be as nice as this one, but really trying to hold people accountable for expectations, but teaching them there is a right way to do things or an expected way that they need to do things. And my wife would say I probably overreach a little bit, and maybe it's not my place to tell other people's kids there's a right and a wrong, but why would I allow something that is going to have a negative effect on the rest of their life?
What I would say is in the same aspect as, say, quartermaster, and I have two quartermasters that work with me. I set up a program in our troop where it was all boy led. In the past, I watched the dads that were quartermasters kind of do things for the quartermasters, and they would put the ice chests out and this and that. And my whole thing was to, hey guys, it's camping. We're handing out ice chests, set them all here. Here's your list. I would create a list for them and a format for them, and they had to follow through. And right then and there, that's the proper way to do it. Just like shaking someone's hand when you walk into a room. I set my whole program up on just that aspect alone of this is the proper way to be a quartermaster. You're going to learn a ton, but you're also going to be in charge of all this equipment, and it's all your equipment. It's not mine. You have a question, I'll answer it for you. And that was just between me and the quartermasters. It wasn't, that was for learning aspects alone. I'm not going to let them send a kid out with a broken tent.
Right.
Hey, is this broken? It probably is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that type of thing. But that in the life lesson, to answer that question, that was probably one of my life lessons is how to teach younger kids. And it got really hard with my own kids because they were all quartermasters as well under me. Some of the campouts were hard for me to work with my kids because sometimes they would act like they would at home. And you know that thing that makes you go from 0 to 10?
I don't know
And
that.
you're
I've
on
never
a camp out?
experienced that.
Yeah.
I don't know
Yeah.
what you're referring to.
Angel children. You're just like, I'm in day 5 and you're acting like that. You know what I mean? You don't act like that with the other kids. I had to step back several times as a parent and as just a guy, just saying, whoa, I didn't act like that with someone else's kid
Right.
on this camp out who has the same issue. I actually went and talked to him. Can I do that with my own kid?
Well, I think that's a great point. So how do you stay humble and grounded, right, as a leader, right?
Dirty coffee. Yeah. It's you have to step back and,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of somewhat in your character.
Well, I think we talked about on the U Sports episode is it's very difficult to coach your own kid.
Right.
And so,
Sure.
you know, in Little League, when Tristan was getting out of line, if I went and corrected him, it was dad just being a jerk.
Yep.
Right. So how do you manage that? You drop the dime on your kid to another leader and you
Yes.
say, hey,
You-
go drop kick my kid because he's
Yep.
just out of control.
Yep.
We've done that several times, and that's kind of one of a couple things. But then as a dad, that life lesson I want to learn, like, how do I approach my child?
Right.
know?
You as a dad, not
Yeah.
I'm going to always, you know.
But yeah, that's the great thing about scouting is you can always just tell another dad, hey, I just witnessed my own child do something totally not cool or just have a bad attitude about what.
Yeah, well, Mike was right. So Steve came in, he was talking about youth sports, and he said, you know, his daughter in a tournament got a double, did something, got to third, and he was correcting her on her base run. She's like, Dad, why can't you just say great hit? Right?
It's a trap, though. I think it's a total trap for parents that are in leadership roles and their kids are under them, right? So you're either going to be too lenient on your kid where all the other parents are going to judge you, or you're going to be way too harsh on your kid, right? To show everybody that my kid's not getting any preferential treatment.
Right.
To land exactly on the line of
Yeah.
right and wrong, I think you're going to miss more times than not. I would recommend deferring to another leader to make corrections on your
In that position, yeah. But I also watched my kids. The great thing about it, when they were under me, I watched them excel in that spot. And they're like, Dad, I got this. And you'd be like, whoa, okay, I'm going to go drink coffee and
Yeah.
dip my dunker in it while I watch you. You
Yeah,
know?
that's great.
which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
That's the win.
Yeah. And the great thing about scouts is, right, even if it's 25 degrees, there's enough common sense adults there. They're not going to let
Right.
your kid freeze to death. So if
Exactly.
he didn't bring his sleeping bag, which has happened in
Mhm.
25-degree weather,
What do you do there?
I've given my sleeping bag to a kid before and just curled up in my van like a hobo and woke up with icicles on my beard.
But there's kids that have forgotten jackets, and you know what? If it's springtime or fall, guess what? You're gonna be cold.
Well,
And,
Yeah.
and rest assured, you're not gonna.
there's no hypothermia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay to be uncomfortable, right? Again, as parents, we don't want our kids to be uncomfortable, right? Like that's just contrary to
For
everything that
Yeah.
we want. In scouting, some of the best lessons learned are through failure.
So what generally, if a kid did leave his jacket in the cold, you would say, hey, go through your patrol and see how many layers you can find between your friends.
Oh, that's good.
Problem.
Solve your own
Yeah.
problem. Yep.
It's not my problem to solve. And again, the adults are there not to solve the problem. The adults are there as oversight to ensure, hey, this kid's not going to freeze to death,
Yeah.
right? The one kid sleeping under a palm frond while everyone else is in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
So,
We're going to step in when
my
necessary.
gosh.
I want to go back to that life lesson thing because the answer finally came to me. So you had asked me about the life lesson.
yes.
So that life lesson that I've learned through scouting is when I am a part of something this massive, scouting, and I am a part of all these boys' lives for the last 10, 11 years. The life lesson that I've learned is when I give of myself as a volunteer, that's true happiness. And there is a couple quotes out there of a guy saying it that one of our scoutmasters always repeats, and it's so true. When you give of yourself as a volunteer, when you go do something, there's no other greater happiness. And when I see that scout learn that one lesson, when I see him load that trailer all by himself or say, hey, I did it, Mr. Boyce, I got this all done, there's nothing better. There's nothing better and he feels good.
For sure.
You feel good, you know?
No, that's got to be so cool to see that.
That
just-
life lesson.
Right.
Yeah, that's my life lesson out of scouting.
No, that's a great one.
Yeah.
What else you got, Mr. Ban?
I don't know how you end better than that.
That is the ultimate. I mean, Mark, you absolutely killed it, dude. We were pumped. I was super excited just to learn about scouting. I think for everybody listening and watching, both of you guys gave so many amazing just tips, little nuggets there of advice. So we truly appreciate you coming in and sharing all of your experiences with us.
I loved it.
And everybody, thanks for listening and watching, and we will see you next time.